Hey Hungry Biscuits. So today I'm going to talk about how I keep my grocery hauls on budget. So mainly it's just the two of us that I am shopping for. And we still spend more than I would like a lot of times if I'm not careful and thoughtful. But the good thing about the Rona is that it's at least taught me more awareness and more thoughtfulness about what I'm buying, when I'm buying, and kind of how can I budget for all of that, right? So that's one golden thing. So things that I love are if I'm going to buy meat, if it's on sale and I can freeze it, woo, that's great. I bought a ton of, ground turkey at Costco because it was on sale, and I froze it, and we've been making burgers on it during the summer, which is great because generally I'm like, do I want to buy ground turkey? It's kind of overpriced. But I'm not going to grind it myself. So that's like the first easy thing you can do is to just look for when things are on sale, buy them and freeze them. I'm really tempted to get a chest freezer and put it in the garage. I've been looking for one. I'm a little worried because the electricity tends to go out every winter because of winter storms here. But I think that it's cold enough that for a day, if you just keep the freezer going, I think it'll be fine. I have to think about that. But it's on my list of like, I think that would be another good way to save. So a second way that I save a lot on my budget, and my sister laughs at me because she is a walk to the grocery store, shop every couple of days kind of person. Like she's only shopping once a week during Corona, and that's a big deal to her. And I was like, oh, really? Going 3 weeks now, that's a long time, but a week. So she'll look, in my pantry or whatever and be like, oh, you really buy big containers. Yes, I do. That's right. But when you're bulk buying, and this is something that I frequently make this mistake on because I see something and think, oh my God, it's such a good deal, I have to harvest this. And then it goes bad. So when you're bulk buying, know what works for your family and what you can actually get through. So a giant bag of rice, that's going to last your family a long time. If you keep it nice and dry and cool, and you don't let any little bugs get into it or anything, right? You can use that for months and months and months, and it's not going to go bad. If you buy a 20-pound bag of potatoes, and it's just a couple of you, or like my son suddenly, after I bought a giant bag of potatoes, has refused eating potatoes. Like he just won't do it anymore. This is his thing. Doesn't matter what I do with the potato. As soon as he figures out it's a potato, he won't eat it. But potatoes are going to go bad, right? They're going to sprout eyes. They're going to go funky. Same goes for big bulk bags of onions and garlic. Like they're great, but can you actually get through them? So are you really saving money, right? That can kind of be deceptive for bulk buying. Same goes for giant condiments that are going to end up going bad before you use them all. Sometimes you still save money on that, but not always. Okay, this is a good one. So discover, because I gotta say, so much when I hear and read stuff about grocery budgeting it's so like generalized, right? You've got to personalize it. Find out what works for your family for meals. What meals does your family actually really love that you can cook ahead of time, right? Because that way you're able to buy like a big thing of produce in bulk that's way cheaper, and you're able to make something fresh and healthy and tasty that you know your family will actually eat, and then you can freeze parts of the meal and bring it out. And another reason this is good is when you can bulk make a couple dinners and then freeze them, you're gonna have convenience food, right? And the thing I have discovered is that no matter how much you want to budget, there are times where you really want some convenience food, right? Like sometimes you're tired. It's hard to cook 3 to 5 meals a day, every day, 7 days a week, right? That's exhausting, right? So when you can prepare meals, freeze them, and have them be convenience meals that you just stick in the oven, stick in the microwave, it makes a huge difference because then you aren't being totally exhausted and buying super overpriced pre-made meals, right? Those meals are expensive. They really add up for a family. But you're going to occasionally want to do that, right? You're going to occasionally want convenience food. And when you can make it yourself with ease and within budget, then it's a really nice thing to just be able to pull out of the freezer. Okay, I'm going to read this to you because I wrote these down especially for you. So ways that I like to bulk out meals, because I think it's easy to buy meals that are going to have really expensive ingredients and then not be filling, right? We've all gone to really nice restaurants and you go, I'm really hungry after that. Can I have a sandwich? So bulking out meals, especially with kids, right, is really important because they will just stuff their faces full of, yeah, here's all the shrimp. Oh, but why didn't you eat any of this rice, right? So bulking out meals is important. So I like to make homemade bread. And I want to add, this is always to vegetarian bulk out your food, right? Because vegetarian food tends to be so much cheaper. I'm not including vegetables in this category, as silly as that is for vegetarian meals, but adding things that are not meat-based or necessarily dairy-based, but sometimes, really can kind of let your meal go a lot farther, have it be super tasty, and it's how some of the best peasant food is made, right? Like when you think of great Italian peasant food, a lot of it is food that you're like bulking out the meal in, but it's delicious, and it happens to be vegetarian. You throw in some of your meat or throw in your dairy, right? And you add some of that protein and energy to it, but it's all bulked out. Oh no, thank you.
Don't worry.
No, I insist. Okay, back to what I was saying. I got distracted. Small people. Homemade bread. So I love to make homemade bread. Today we made focaccia, and that was really tasty. That was part of our lunch. It was delicious, and it's easy to do. Rice and mashed potatoes are two great ways to bulk out a meal. That's right. Unless you have a small person's
I'm not big.
You're very big. I agree. You aren't small. Rice is super affordable, and potatoes are super inexpensive, and you can add them to almost any meal. Please stop that, Abraham. Thank you. You're being very disrespectful. And you can add them to pretty much any flavor of meal that you're making, and bulk out the meal a huge amount, make them really tasty. You can go a little bit more exotic and interesting with the kind of rice or the kind of potatoes you're using, but it starches it up and fills up kids that are growing that otherwise are just gonna go wild. And at dinner time, it's nice because carbohydrates at dinner time help mellow kids out. It helps prep them for bed. So actually, if you give them a really high protein meal before bed, it's gonna keep them up longer. Generally, every kid is different. So that's really helpful. I'm trying to see if I wrote down. Oh, okay, here's one. So you can make a good broth, a good chicken broth or a veggie broth from scratch. But let me be totally honest, that takes a lot of work. One of the cheapest things I have found is if you go to a restaurant supply store or Costco, I like to buy, it's a tub of bouillon that is like a paste. Thing lasts forever. And I know people love talking about making their own chicken stock, and it's really fun to do. I do that with Abraham sometimes just for entertainment. Because it's fun. It's like making a magical science experiment, right? But bouillon broth, it really works, and it's something that you can actually do to stay on budget, because broths add a lot of flavor and intensity, and they're good for marinades, right? Instead of just run yourself to the bone. And that's something, if you are just pushing yourself to the edge to stay on budget, you want the money you're saving isn't worth it, right? Your health, your physical health and your mental health is more important than saving $10 a month on something. And that's a really important lesson to take from all economic backgrounds. I've had to remind myself of that, even in really tight times for our budgets, is that mental and physical well-being is really important, and you can't scrimp and coupon on that, right? There's really a lot of value in it. I'm going to finish this up with the last bit of notes that I wrote to myself. So these are cheap meals that I love that you can make in a pressure cooker, because sometimes mommy doesn't want to cook. Mommy especially doesn't want to have to clean things, but sometimes mommy doesn't want to cook. So pressure cooker minestrone is great. That is so tasty. And you can make that gluten-free, you can make it vegetarian, you can even make it vegan if you want. It's really easy. You just put in the pasta and the marinara, a little bit of water and chicken broth or veggie broth, the veggies you want, and you cook it all together for a couple minutes. I think I have that actually in one of my weekaroo when I used to do the weekly vlogs before I moved over to dailies. I think I showed that a couple times, because remember when we were remodeling the kitchen in that condo and there was a screw up by 2 different companies and we didn't have a kitchen for 2 or 3 months, at all. We did not have a kitchen. And so I had to use the pressure cooker to cook in the midst of winter, and that was the only cooking device I had. I had the microwave. I got the microwave working. I remember that was a big deal. We could microwave it, we could pressure cooker. So the minestrone is really good. I love a one-pan roast. You stick in carrots and potatoes, some onions, roast up a chicken on top, and the chicken fat dribbles down onto the veggies. It's so simple and easy, and it's so much less cleanup. And it's a full, hearty, tasty meal. Then you can use the chicken in sandwiches. You can use it in burritos the next day. It's just a really nice, easy meal. Ooh, this is a good one. Why have I not shared this before? Cabbage stir fry with rice and eggs. Cabbage tends to be very cheap. Sometimes you can get it for like 30 cents a pound in the winter. Rice is going to be really cheap, and you can just make such a tasty, delicious meal with that. Little rice, little eggs in the rice stirred in, so it's like a fried rice. It adds some protein to it. It is such a good budget-conscious meal. My camera is telling me that I've talked too long. Its battery's out. You can absolutely stay on budget with your meals and keep your food delicious. I love doing, mainly Italian peasant cooking is kind of my style that I really love. And that is a lot of cheap but delicious ingredients that you just love up and tenderize and saute gorgeously and fry up and just make it tasty in the way that you handle it, right? Okay, I'm going to see you in the next video. I hope this inspires you to go out and cook. I love you all, biscuits. Thank you so much for giving these a thumbs up. Always scrolling through the description box and checking out the merch, because you never know when you need a little mug to sip out of while you're cooking. Okay, see you in the next one.